Hey guys, what's up? This is episode 222 of Ultra Melodic Podcast with Vinisha and with Dylan. And today we are going to be discussing our 10 favorite albums of all time. So remember, these are just our favorites. We're going to talk about why they're our favorites, what songs we like, things like that. So I'm ready. If you're ready to go, Dylan, if you want to start us off with your number 10.
Yeah, so basically this was really, really hard to narrow down. So I'm gonna say before I get started with my number 10, some honorable mentions that I came up with really quick because I don't want to leave these out. So just really quick, the Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, Madlib and MF Doom, Mad Villainy, Arctic Monkeys, AM, Madonna, Ray of Light, Janet Jackson, The Velvet Rope, Mariah Carey, Butterfly, Radiohead, OK Computer, Pink Floyd, The Dark Side of the Moon, J. Cole 2014, Forest Hills Drive, and Grimes, Art Angels. So those are just some albums that were really hard for me to cut out that I just wanted to get in there. But anyways, starting on to my number 10, I have Demon Days by Gorillaz. So I'm really happy this album's on here because I didn't really discover this album in full until last year. And the reason why I wanted to really just dive into this album and listen to it in full is because Feel Good Inc.'s a song on here that everybody knows. It's Gorillaz' signature song. And it was one of my favorite songs growing up. That song came out in 2005, I believe. And, growing up, I just heard that song a lot. And it's just such a unique song, how it became so big and commercially successful, but it's like it doesn't sound like anything that was on the radio at the time. I feel like it's a song that's just, it really blends accessibility in a way with like pushing the boundary a bit with such a unique sound. It intrigued me a lot. And it's very rare to come by big hits like that everyone likes that still maintain its artistry. So last year I rediscovered the song, I fell in love with it, and I'm like, okay, let me go back into this album. And it totally lived up to that song. Like, it did not disappoint. I was like, I've been sleeping on this album for so long. There's so many good songs in here. I love Gorillaz style. So just going through the track list, some of my favorites would have to be Kids with Guns, Dirty Harry, maybe my all-time favorite Gorillaz song. The replay value on this thing is just so good. El Mañana is a really calm and relaxing song. And November Has Come, a collaboration with MF Doom, which kind of, you wouldn't expect that with Gorillaz, but it worked out so well. And Dare's a classic, obviously, but I feel like most Gorillaz fans, at least I've seen some of the super fans, a lot of them prefer Plastic Beach to this one. And don't get me wrong, I love Plastic Beach. It's amazing. And it dives more into that electronic sound. But I really do love the style of Demon Days. It has electronic, but it blends it with kind of this hip hop and rock influence. And it has this a little bit like old school feel to it, but also in a way that sounds like modern and futuristic at the same time. It's just so cool. So I don't know. I feel like I do like this record a little bit more than Plastic Beach, but I still love Plastic Beach. So either way is honestly like a win in my book. But yeah, this album, I just really been loving it lately. It has a lot of replay value for me. So yeah, that's my number 10. And Venetia, what about you?
Yeah, I don't know anything about Gorillaz, which is really sad. I definitely need to get into them more. I've heard a lot
Yeah.
of great things, so that is impressive. So for me, I'm gonna name a few honorable mentions as well. Yeah. I got Rodeo, Thank You Next, Beauty Behind the Madness, Nothing Was the Same, Norman F. and Rockwell, Astroworld, Graduation, Anti, Beyonce Self-Titled, The Pink Print, and 2014 Forest Hills Drive as well. So my number 10, I'm coming in with Bad by Michael Jackson, released in, I think, 87, late 80s. Um, yeah, so I don't think this is his best album. Um, I know it's not. It doesn't contain any of his big three, Billie Jean, Beat It, Thriller, but this is his most enjoyable album to me. This is the album that, I don't know, it has my personal favorite, so I love Smooth Criminal. It's on here. But my dad was a huge MJ fan, so I grew up listening to a lot of his music, and it's very comforting for me. Like, if I don't really know what I want to listen to, I always know, like, you know what, I'll just throw on some Michael Jackson and everything's gonna be good and life's gonna be great. Yeah, there's no other specific reason other than nostalgia, I think, for me to have this in my top 10. I like I don't think Michael Jackson has made a bad song because he's just Michael Jackson. I don't think anyone can ever reach his level of greatness, of talent, of notoriety. But yeah, I think nostalgia just played a huge factor in me enjoying this album so much. It's just a lot of you'll notice this is going to be a common trend in a lot of my top 10 albums. They tend to be comfort albums for me. So they're always albums that I turn to a lot whenever I'm just feeling a little down, if I need a little pick me up, or if I just, want to feel very content with life. I listen to them usually.
Yeah, I love that pick. Michael Jackson's one of my favorites, and you can't go wrong with really any
You
album.
literally cannot go wrong with
You
MJ.
really can't. His discography's so strong and bad. Actually, a lot of fans do love that one, so it's a great pick. But moving on to my number 9, Good Kid, Mad City, Kendrick Lamar. Now, oh my god, so, yeah, we got. I feel like this album, just so much to it, and people may be asking like, why did I not pick To Pimp a Butterfly over this? And I do still think To Pimp a Butterfly is his best album, probably the best album of the last decade. But for personal enjoyment, I'm choosing this one. Honestly, it's not even by a ton. Like, I still really do love To Pimp a Butterfly. I love its highs that it has, but I feel like I listen to more songs on this album in full, I feel like. And just everything he says, Kendrick's just amazing, and it's really hard to figure out where to start when talking about him. But his discography is just immaculate. I'm still waiting on the next album by him, but this one's so far like, I mean, this one, he's just talking about his experience growing up in Compton. He's so autobiographical with everything he talks about. And, not only his rap skill, but the beats on here are amazing. The production, he just has the full package with every single thing. And this album, there's just so many bangers on here, but also so many, honest and vulnerable moments. It's Kendrick, we know we're going to get that. So some of my highlights on here as I'm going through the track list would include Money Trees, a banger, obviously. Good Kid, which is actually, I think, an underrated one that a lot of fans don't credit, but this is one of my favorites. Mad City, my ultimate favorite Kendrick Lamar song, I believe. This song is just such a banger. The beat switch, the tempo switch at the halfway point, just so amazing. This song is just, and then Swimming Pools, obviously. Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, of course. I mean, come on. Like, this song, if I had to choose one song to show people who say Kendrick's not a great rapper and he's not one of the best of this generation or all time, which they shouldn't say, but if I had to choose one song, it's gonna be Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, because the storytelling on this thing is just insane. And coming in at 12 minutes, I never get bored of any part of the song. I still listen to it. I know every part by heart.
Do people really say that?
Some people, no, I've heard some people say who aren't rap fans, like who don't really know much about rap.
Okay.
Other people, but no, most rap listeners know, obviously, Kendrick.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, like,
in case I gotta put someone in check, I'm like, listen to this,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and then those are my highlights. But honestly, every song, there's no bad songs on this album, even in Kendrick's discography. It's like, really, what bad songs are there? But this one just happens to be my personal favorite. So yeah, Kendrick Lamar, Good Kid, Mad City, number 9. How about you, Vinisha?
I actually own Good Kid, Mad City on vinyl. I'm very proud of that. No, that's an incredible choice. Kendrick is
one of my favorites.
I don't know, he's like once in a generation type talent,
Yeah.
So for me, number 9 coming in is Trap Soul by Bryson Tiller. I can assure you I have no recollection of how I got into this album, but I am so glad that I did. I listened to it so much that Exchange became my most streamed song of all time on Spotify for the longest amount of time. I had to like physically stop listening to it, like stop myself from listening to it, so that way it wouldn't, because I felt like I was depressed if that was my number 1 streamed song. No, I don't think Bryson Tiller is like the best in the game when it comes to the genre, but to me, this album, I don't know why it speaks to me. And I know Exchange and Don't are very well-known popular songs, but I remember when I listened to them, I was in high school when I heard it. This came out in 2015. So I was in high school, and I just remember like feeling the feelings that he was saying. I don't know why. I think, yeah, I don't know why. I was probably liking some boy who did me wrong. I don't know. But I think this is his best work overall. And when I think of Bryson Tiller's best songs, the only songs that come to mind are on this album we're talking. So we got Exchange, we have Don't, we have 502 Come Up, we have Right My Wrongs, we have that's what I can think of off the top of my head. But yeah, this is just truly a very enjoyable work for me. I love his voice as well. It's a big thing for me. And again, I'm gonna keep reiterating it. It is a comfort album. It's something that I like turning to, um, mostly when I'm sad. Mostly when I'm sad.
Yeah, Bryson Tiller. I mean, I'm not super familiar with his discography. I do know his popular songs, so I definitely need to check out more of him to have an opinion on that. What I have heard, I really do like him. So yeah, my number 8 is Beyonce Self-Titled. Now, this album came out in 2013. It broke the music industry. Surprise release.
Changed the game with that digital drop.
No,
okay, sorry.
no, it's true. I mean, in the visual album that came along with it, music videos from every single song, and it really adds to this album and it makes it come to life. But just, I feel like the music itself is just so strong, you know. I've been listening to this album since it came out in 2015, 2016 and on forward. And the reason why I have this instead of Lemonade, which I do think Lemonade's such a strong album, every single song belongs on that record. It blends so many styles well together. But I feel like personally, I'm a fan of more albums that have a cohesive sound to it. And Lemonade is cohesive, don't get me wrong, but it does have a lot of different styles. So I love that album for what it was at the time. But I feel like Self-Titled, maybe, I don't know, maybe as a listener, it's just been easier for me to follow the sound than it has here. But it's just Beyonce at her best. I feel like the mixing and mastering on this thing is so great, and her vocals are crystal clear. It's aged like fine wine. Everything about this, Beyonce's vocals, of course, we can't talk about a Beyonce album without that. She just commands every song so well. And this album, I'm not even like, I don't even say I'm a beehive, but like this album's still just in my top 10 of all time, because I would be lying to myself if it wasn't. I've listened to this album consistently for years, longer than a lot of albums on this list. And, my highlights, if I would look on here, Haunted, great song. Drunken Love, obviously, featuring Jay-Z. Let's see. Partition, we've got to love Beyonce rapping. I know every word to that one. Jealous.
Partition is like a go-to, at least for girls' night. It's a go-to song. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. No, Partition's great. Jealous, which I think is an underrated one. We don't hear a lot of fans talking about it, but it's a good mid-tempo ballad for her. Very vulnerable. One of my favorites. Rocket, an R&B jam, also one of my favorites. I really love that one. And then we got, let's see, it keeps on going, like all these highlights. EXO, a good, song. And then, yeah, I would say those are my main highlights, but I really do love most of the songs on here. And like I said, it's been a consistent album for me over the years. So I feel like I had to put it here, and I do still listen to it a lot. So yeah, Beyonce Self-Titled, number 8.
7-Eleven is also on there, and I love that one. I don't know I forgot if you mentioned it, 7-Eleven.
I didn't mention it on my highlights, but I really do like it. It's on the deluxe version.
It's on the deluxe. Well, funny enough, my number 8 is Lemonade by Beyonce. So as much as I love Self-Titled, I think that Lemonade is Beyonce's best work. Like by a little bit, by a hair. They're both so incredible.
You can't go wrong.
Exactly. You really can't go wrong with either one. I'd like to point out I got the free month of Tidal just to listen to this album.
I did.
No, like, okay, no, I mean, like, you get a free month. Like, you have to sign up for a
Oh
free
yeah.
month, right? And then
No,
you have to like
I
put
did
in,
too. I remember.
yeah, no, I went through that process of
Oh
get because
man.
I already had Spotify.
Yeah.
Um, and this, anyways, I don't know why I felt like that needed to be said. For me, one thing I love about Beyonce is her versatility, and this album showcases it the best. I mean, when I first listened to this album, it's like it's like every song sounded so different. It sounded like they were in completely different genres, and yet it all flowed together so well. And I could not fathom how someone could make an album with like five different genres in it and
Seriously.
it
Seriously.
still work. I mean,
Yeah.
she's got R&B, she's got pop, got a little bit of country and folk,
Rock.
rock,
Don't hurt
like
yourself.
exactly. So
Yeah.
she's got a little bit of everything and she can do everything. So she does everything. So there is not a single lull in this entire album, not even close to one. And that just blew me away when I first listened to it, and I continuously listen to it. And I'm so glad it's on Spotify now because I can listen to it not on YouTube anymore.
Mhm.
Plus, I love the story, behind it. She's talking about the infidelity. She's talking about her experiences as a Black woman. That's all incredible work by her. And of course, you mentioned for self-titled, the visuals, that was a series of music videos. She included music videos for I think all the tracks.
Yeah.
Lemonade came with a visual aspect as well, but it was a movie,
Yeah, movie.
and I think that also enhanced the whole experience of the album. Really, looking at the track list, my personal favorite is Daddy Lessons.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I love. I mean, if Beyonce made a country album, I would listen to it. Um, I love Daddy Lessons. I love 6 Inch. I love Freedom. Oh, I love Freedom. I don't know that
Okay.
I love that collaboration with
And the
Kendrick
performance
Lamar.
at the Formation tour also. I don't know if you
Oh my
saw it, but like they were
gosh.
performing in the water on that one.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wish I was there, but I wasn't.
Beyonce. I wish I was at every Beyonce performance. I wanted to be at Coachella, at the Coachella
Yeah.
performance. I wanted to be there so bad. I watched it on YouTube. What
Yeah.
else? I love All Night. Got Formation. Those are just a few that I really enjoy listening to. But yeah, so as much as I don't know, I just love this album. I really do, and I think this is the way that Beyonce really showcased her talent. Not that she didn't already, but this is just another way that she did that, and she deserved a Grammy for it, but we won't go there.
Yeah. Well, she did win too, just not album of the year. They were like running
Yeah,
category.
but
She
but
did
she
deserve
like she deserved.
album
Come
of the year.
on.
Yeah, I just have to say, self-titled and Beyonce are two of the best, or are one of the best pairs of back-to-back albums I think we've seen in
Mhm.
in recent music history. Just to have
Probably.
just to have a 1-2 punch like that, it's
Hmm.
impressive. But yeah, since we talked about Beyonce, praise the Queen and discuss her, we're gonna talk about our number 7. So my number 7 is Melodrama by Lorde. And I feel like this is probably one that's like common on a lot of people's lists now, but I do have my reasons for it. Honestly, Lorde's just quickly became one of my favorite artists. She hasn't missed 2 albums, 0 missed. I don't even think she has a bad song in her discography. Like I've been looking, I mean,
But to be
granted,
fair, she only has like
well,
20.
yeah. I mean, she only has that much, but I still don't think she has a bad song, which is like
Yeah.
still though, because
No,
most
it
albums
is.
we listen to have duds in it, but Laura just
Mhm.
like none. So
Mhm.
this album though, when we're talking about melodrama, I did hear this album when it came out in 2017. So I was only 15 and I didn't even like it that much. I was 15 years old. I didn't get it. I didn't know the story behind it. I didn't recognize the concept album this was until I grew up and matured my music taste. I expanded my horizons. Then I listened to this thing 4 years, I think 2019, I re-listened to this. I was
Mhm.
blown away. I was reading the story on this, how Lorde came up with the album, and I was just like, whoa, like this is a whole album story unfolding over one night, essentially, where Lorde's going to a bar and then she's reminiscing over these feelings about relationships and love. and then she's growing as a person out of this night, and realizing that she doesn't have to blame herself for anything, and that she becomes a stronger person than she was out of this. And every single song belongs on this album. There's not, like I said,
Yep.
no song could have been cut from this album. It wouldn't have made sense in the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I feel like I can't choose a highlight, because it's like doing a disservice to the other songs, because every song plays such a monumental part in here. It's just so masterful. But Green Light, the first track, just an excellent song. Lorde was explaining, how with Jack Antonoff, she composed those like piano chords, like dun 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 dun, dun. She like had to make sure like they were really like rigidy, and it really shows like the detail that went into the production on this thing.
Wow.
So Green Light's just a banger. You got The Louvre. I think this is a beautiful, underrated on this album, actually. I think it's very beautifully written. The outro on this thing with just the bells is like, oh, so beautiful. And then Liability, we're gonna get to this one. Oh my God. This song just breaks me every time I hear it. I feel like it does have to be one of my favorite songs of all time, actually, because every single word on this song is just so relatable to every single thing that like I felt about myself in high school. And it's like, no song can make me feel this way.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just, it's a really, really emotional song for me, not to get into it too much, but it's like every single word's relatable to me, like what I felt. So that song is just definitely something else. And then Hard Feelings, Loveless, amazing. Rider in the Dark, another sad one. Just her vocals on those choruses just tug the heartstrings. Supercut, a great pop song. And yeah, those are basically my highlights. Lorde and Jack Antonoff as well, did their thing. I can't wait for her next album. It's my most anticipated album, along with Kendrick, who we talked about, my most anticipated albums of this year, if they come out. So please, Lorde, get to work. Or, I don't know, I think she's at work, but get to finalizing the album, please.
Listen, perfection takes time.
It does, I know.
With patience, she is testing everybody. She's like, just wait. Yeah. You'll get the perfection you want soon. No, Liability, like, I know we don't want to get deep into it, so like I'm just gonna I honestly didn't cry, because like as you said, it was so relatable. When I listened to it, I was like, I really love this, but I don't want to listen to it again because it makes me so sad.
It does.
Yeah, no, she's also just an incredible artist, so definitely excited to hear what she has next.
Yeah, now that she's up too.
I know, that's true. We're gonna get a little bit more mature stuff. We'll see.
Yeah.
For me, what number are we on? Seven. For me, number 7, I've got Fame Monster by Lady Gaga. It's Gaga, short and sweet, 8 tracks. I think. Yeah, it's 8 tracks. I just looking at the track list, the amount of firepower. She gave us Bad Romance, Alejandro, Telephone, and Speechless all in like 8 tracks.
I know.
Like, I don't understand how it's physically possible. How are you going to deliver some of your biggest hits in just 8 tracks? No, but again, no low point in this at all. I do love that the whole concept is basically talking about 8 different fear monsters. I wrote down 7 of them because I forgot one of them. Wait, so there's fear of love, suffocation, self and ego, death, sex, men, addiction, and one that I seem to have forgotten. So Google might be helpful with that later. But yeah, so I love that there was that deeper meaning involved in each of the tracks. But I also just love because a lot of this music was a huge part of my formative years. This came out in 2008, but I started getting into it a little bit later, like a year or 2 later, when I was like 10. And so it was like listening to I knew how big Lady Gaga was when these songs started playing on the radio. When Bad Romance came out, that's when I really heard of, oh, this is Lady Gaga, this is her music. And then I started delving a little bit more into her stuff, and I just fell in love with all of her work, and I continue to fall in love with all of her work every time she produces something. But yeah, there's not a low point at all in this album, which again is impressive because even with 8-track albums, you may think, oh, that's not difficult to do. You can put 8 good songs. No, people still fail to put 8 good songs, and she didn't. So that's what I have to say about it. Also, Fame Monster is a Leo, I think.
Yeah.
That doesn't add any sort of constructive information,
Right.
but I felt like it needed to be said.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, Gaga, obviously, literally my favorite. And this album, you know, not only, like you said, the album just has 0 misses. You can't skip anything. And
Mm-hmm.
if I'm being honest, but even the era, you know, just this was a moment in pop culture. All the music videos that came out with this, just unforgettable. And
Yeah.
I wish we had another album like this that came out in 2021, but it's hard to top. So yeah, we'll talk maybe a little bit more about her later. No hints, but
We probably will, knowing you.
maybe. So number 6, I have The Score by Fugees. So this is so the story behind this is it's the first full hip hop album, traditional hip hop when I say that I heard
Mm-hmm.
from the 90s when this was released. My dad actually did originally introduce me to this record first. He really loved this record when he was growing up. And, you know, the classic songs I knew. So Ready or Not, Killing Me Softly, those 2 songs mainly are like pretty big classic songs. Everyone knows them. And, you know, just Lauryn Hill on this thing. People are always like, Lauryn Hill only has 1 album. How can she be considered a great rapper? I'm like, no, she doesn't. Like, listen to this. There's such thing as the Fugees. She
Mm-hmm.
wasn't solo, but it was, I mean, come on now. It was with a
Yeah.
group. And I just, you know, I love Miseducation of Lauryn Hill so much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an amazing album, but I don't know, I feel like maybe because I have a little bit more memories with this album, that's why I love it a bit more. But I also just really love Lauren with the guys on here. So Wyclef and Praz, them together is just it's just a match made in heaven, a trio made in heaven, I should say. But the production on this thing is so good. It has that classic sound to it, and I just love Lauren so much. She's just so honest and full of wisdom at
Mm-hmm.
such a young age. Really, she was still in her early 20s, I think, when this thing was made.
Wow.
And this album has a lot of highlights for me. Zealots, Fuji Law, one of my favorite courses, probably very catchy. Family Business, a really good song with great lyrical content in it. I also really like The Mask. That's a good one. And those would be my main highlights. But this album, I do feel like, since it was a gateway for me to get into a lot of hip hop at a younger age, and I've really just loved this album ever since I first heard it. I have it on vinyl and everything. This album, The Score by Fugees, I'm proud of this album being in my top 10, and I'll honestly never get tired of it. So it's just one of those albums for me.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I also, another album that I need to get a little bit more into because I only know the popular songs off of it. So yeah, definitely have to listen to that. A lot of respect for Lauryn Hill. Obviously, she's a wonderful woman.
Yeah.
For my number 6, I have Culture by the Migos, and I'd like to preface this by saying I do not support any of their actions
Oh,
towards women because they've pretty much all recently gotten some heat about some things that they've done. So definitely don't support that. And actually including it in this list was definitely a lot more difficult to do because it does, you know, conflict with how I feel about these topics. But I still like the album. Including this album in this list was definitely very difficult because it does conflict with my feelings about how they've been disrespectful towards women. So with that being said, though, I still like the music. um, yeah, I still like the music. I think this is top 5 trap in my opinion. Crazy. I don't think that they'll do better than this though. they peaked somehow with this, and it's probably all going to go downhill from here. But I think when Bad and Bougie came out, that's kind of when I was like, oh, who are these guys? And I started delving into them a little bit more, and I realized, I loved Slippery. I love Kelly Price.
Yeah.
The one thing I love most about the Migos though is their ad libs. I listen to them solely for the ad libs. That's like I, oh my god. Like, what's the point of rapping along to a Migos song if you don't do the ad libs? Sometimes I only do the ad libs. Like, it's so fun. It's so fun. But no, what else is on this in this album? Sorry, I'm pulling up the track list right now. So we got T-shirt, we got Bad and Bougie. Get Right With Ya.
So good.
That's also another good one. Brown Paper Bag. I'd say like the only considerably weak song on this album would be the title track Culture, and I blame DJ Khaled for it. So I don't blame the Migos for that one. I blame DJ Khaled for that one. But no, I still I despite how I feel towards what they're doing right now, and I do try to distance myself a little bit more from them. I still listen to this work quite a bit, and Slippery is like my go-to party song, like for the pregame.
Yeah.
Everyone is happy with that song. So.
Oh yeah. Culture by Migos. I've listened to it. I love it. It's my favorite trap album of all time for sure, because I don't get into trap at all. Actually, like I don't like trap, but I did.
Really?
No, I don't. But Migos Culture, like I've listened to this album since I was a sophomore, I believe. I think it came out when I was a freshman.
It came out in 2017. I wrote down these dates.
I think maybe I started listening to it like late 17, early 2018. That's when I was really into it. And I feel like if maybe I made a list with like my top 50 albums, it would be in it, which is really saying a lot because I really do like that album. And like you said, all those highlights, I agree with. Kelly Price is my favorite. So yeah.
Kelly Price is so, I mean, also, I know, I don't know if we'll delve into Travis anywhere, but Travis's feature was incredible on that song. A little credit to him.
True. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways,
top 5.
Top 5, guys. We made it halfway through. So, my number 5, Off the Wall by Michael Jackson. I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan, and this one's my favorite by him. Reason being is because this album just makes me so happy. I feel like this is the album that makes me the most happy out of any. So it's his debut. Actually, I know he had the Jackson 5 stuff, but this is his first like actual debut solo album with his label. And this album is just so pure. It's Michael Jackson in his purest form, and he's just like so carefree, and you can really get that energy from these songs. And I just, whenever I want to feel better, I just listen to this thing. Michael Jackson's great, obviously, his every single thing, his melodies, his production, and you just really get the raw and purest form of him on this album, like I said. So I would say my highlights on here: Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, great opener. Rock With You, maybe still my favorite Michael Jackson song ever. Off the Wall title track, that one's definitely rivaling Rock With You though. I love that one too. And then, I mean, what else do we got here? Burn This Disco Out, bop. So yeah, there's a lot of good highlights on this thing, and this is just a great album that I chose to represent Michael Jackson, even though, you know, I love all his albums. Thriller obviously is probably his best album song for song, I feel like, but this album, I just like the overarching feeling that it gives of happiness and positivity, optimism. Even though I will say, for the MJ fans here, I do find it funny how like he does Girlfriend, how he talks about like wanting a girlfriend and stuff, or how he's with his girlfriend, and then the track right after, She's Out of My Life. It's like, Michael, like, slow down here. That transition makes me laugh every time. Like, you could have at least maybe put like a song in between. I'm like, damn, she's out of your life. Okay.
That was fast.
I know, but this album, I don't know. It's not, you know, or I mean, it is pretty loved. I can't say it's not his most loved, because it is one of his most loved. But yeah, Off the Wall of Michael Jackson, my number 5.
Yeah, to be fair, pretty much every Michael Jackson album is loved.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
So number 5 for me is weird, but Believe by Justin Bieber. I miss this Bieber. I miss this era of Bieber. Bef before he like did all the dumb stuff in his early like just I miss this part of him. I think this is the music that we typically associate him with. So whenever someone says Justin Bieber, usually All Around the World, As Long as You Love
Yeah.
Me. These are the kinds of Beauty and a Beat. These are the songs that we kind of associate him with.
Yeah.
And I think this is clearly not his best work. I think he's done much better since, but I think this is universally enjoyable. I don't think people listen to these songs and say they hate Justin Bieber. I think they listen to his more recent work and say Justin Bieber. This was a huge part of my formative years. I was in middle school when this came out, so this is all I heard for the longest amount of time. Plus, my sister was younger than me, was a huge Justin Bieber fan. So this is all we heard for a good year or two. And I've always enjoyed listening to it. It always puts me in a good mood. Maria is on the deluxe, I think. Maria is my all-time favorite Justin Bieber song. I mean, I think it was inspired by Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. It's the same storyline. It's Billie Jean. This is not my girl, or not. I messed up lyrics, but yeah, it's not my kid. Blah blah blah. That whole storyline. Yeah. So that's there's no other reason. Like these albums usually just make me feel happy. They make me think about the good old days, which were middle school kind of sucked, but I felt like I was happier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really brief, just explanation of that.
The Biebs, definitely an album we associate like the early him with, you know what I'm talking about, like the image of him with like the shorter hair when he was like a teenager still, and that came out. My favorite Justin Bieber album is Purpose. I just think that thing's full of bangers, a great pop album. But yeah. So my number 4 we're down to is My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West. So this album I just love. I feel like a lot of these past few albums that I've been mentioning, I'm noticing like, was it The Score, Self-Titled, and Good Kid, Mad City? All of those are like the second most loved albums for some reason. I don't know. I just like their second most loved albums. This one used to be Kanye's most loved. Maybe it still is for a lot of people. But like now, I've been seeing a lot of slander for this album for no reason. And we're seeing like it's bottom tier, it's six, like Fantino said. And I'm like, so
I don't get it.
So yeah, I say like I could see College Dropout, Late Registration, being over this. Even though they're not for me, I could see it, but you can't have this album below number 3 for him. If it's not in his Trinity, I just can't. I just don't believe it, because this album's so good. It's his most ambitious effort. And we'll talk more on this about Kanye West's discography, Artist of the Week, the next episode. Make sure you're watching that. But just very briefly before I go into too much on that episode, this thing is so ambitious. The production on here is just Kanye at his artistic peak. Every single beat on here is just so well sophisticated, and the bars are great. The features are great. So Minaj on Monster,
okay, there you
go. And then Devil in a New Dress, Rick Ross on that verse. Come on, he just brings the song to a new level. So when we're choosing highlights here, the songs we don't name aren't bad because they're obviously great. It's just there's so many good songs on here. So my highlights are Gorgeous, probably my favorite Kanye West song. I just love that guitar in the back is so fucking killer. And his verses on here are just so good. And then Kid Cudi on here on that chorus, I just love that song so much. And then you got, what else? So Appalled, which I think is an underrated one that gets lower usually on people's rankings. But I love Jay-Z killed it on here. The beat on this thing, the instrumental is so, so good. Devil in a New Dress, probably my second favorite Kanye West song. Come on, it's like top tier for everyone, as it should be. Just so good. The instrumental makes you feel like you're ascending up into the clouds. So I love it. Runaway, although I wouldn't say I don't have this at number one like most people. It's still amazing, so it's a highlight for me on here. And then, yeah, I feel like even the songs like Hell of a Life, which people hate on, Blame Game, which people kind of slander, those songs I still
Mm-hmm.
like, especially Blame Game. I really love this one. I don't think they're bad at all. It's just when you have so many highlights, you kind of, I don't know, maybe they stand out to some people, but they don't to me. I
Mm-hmm.
really love them. This album, like I said, Kane's just most ambitious and focused effort, really. You know, it only has, I mean, 12 songs isn't too short, but I mean, 12 songs it's just so focused in on, and it doesn't let you get bored at any single point in the album. Some of these songs are like 7+ minutes, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, all the little elements he adds to here, the sampling, if you've seen like the video on every single sample he uses on this thing, it's insane. And just it's just a work of art. I think that's my favorite album. It's chaotic, it's like, but in the best way possible, and yeah, I identify with it the most.
I, I mean, you spoke straight facts the whole time, so I have nothing to say. I love Hell of a Life a lot more than people do. I don't understand why people hate it,
The
honestly.
instrumental's great, the production,
Yeah,
sure
exactly.
it's not the best bars, but I mean, just good, it's a good production for any other
Yeah,
artist that would be
well,
praised.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. My number four coming in is Loud by Rihanna, and that's simply
uh,
because red hair Rihanna hits
yes.
different. Red hair Rihanna. So this album was pretty short, coming in with I think 10 tracks, but I'm gonna double check that number because
Seems
nope,
right.
11 tracks. There's
Yeah.
11 tracks. That's close. But 11 tracks, so short and sweet, which is great. It has everything that I want from Rihanna though. It's got the love ballad in California King Bed. It's got
Oh,
just banger after bang. I mean
baby.
S&M, What's My Name, Only Girl in the World, uh, Man Down, Cheers, Drink to the. I mean just
Yeah.
banger after banger. Man Down is my all-time favorite Rihanna song. I love that song very much. Play it on replay all the time. I just can't imagine Rihanna with this era. I feel like she had to go through this era to become the Rihanna that she is today.
I
And I
agree.
can't really explain that other than it's just a weird gut feeling that
Yeah, I agree. It was
I have.
it was big. She released so many albums, but this one stood out in that little string of albums she did.
Yeah, exactly. Like she released like four back to back to
Yeah.
back once every year. And they were all approximately the same length. Rated R, Talk That Talk. They're all about 10, 11, 12
Yeah.
tracks. And they all had very similar sounds, but this one for some reason does just stick out a lot more than the others. But yeah, I maybe it's the red hair. Maybe it's just that. I don't know. I want to say that this is her best. I think it's complete. I think it has everything. I think it's done well. I don't think there's a bad song. I can see the argument for Auntie being her best though, and not to take. And I don't want to take away from the greatness that is that album. It's like my second favorite, so it's still incredible by her. But I want to say that this is her best. But that is my bias speaking.
Yeah, for Rihanna, Loud's a great choice. Anti's my favorite, Loud's my second, and it's just right after because Loud is just so enjoyable. And like you said, it's just all bangers, and you can't really go wrong with any track. It's just Rihanna, like,
Hmm.
you know, it's so nostalgic, I feel like, too.
That too. Wait,
And
we
it
got
came
the
out so much
nostalgia.
nostalgia when I was like 8 years old when this album came out, and I still listen to it quite a bit. So Loud by Rihanna is a really great album, and Era
Hmm.
by her. So this is where it gets really, really hard for me because I love all these albums so much on my top three. But number three is Ultraviolence by Lana Del Rey. I mean, this album, I can't say enough good things about it. Where do I begin? On it, so starting with my history at this thing, not to get too into Lana, but like this album, I did hear most of the tracks on it, probably like in 2014 or 15, a little bit after
Hmm.
this came out. I wasn't crazy about it. I mostly listened to Born to Die. But then later in 29, like after NFR came out, when I re-dove into Lana and rediscovered my love for her, this album, and ever since last year, has just been my most played album completely. Probably the reason why it's not number one, it would be if I had a little more history with this, but my top two I have more with. But
Hmm.
this album, you know, like when people say like albums you listen to and you feel like they're made like specifically for you to cater your taste and all that. This album's like made for me. Like the
Wow.
psychedelic rock influences on here is just, oh my god. Dan Auerbach from the Black Keys on this thing with Lana is literally a match made in heaven. And I can't
Mm-hmm.
even begin. So when we're listing the highlights on here, it's literally the first 7 songs. I'll go through them really quick. Cruel World, my favorite openers of all time. 6, what is it? 6, 39. I don't skip a single part of it. Long, but I love it. Ultraviolence, amazing. Shades of Cool, fan favorite, but it's deserved. That guitar solo in the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
probably my favorite music moment ever. Brooklyn Baby is my favorite song on here. I don't care if the Lana fans think this is a local song. Same with West Coast. They're my 2 favorites. They can just, I don't know,
Suck
but
it.
yeah, they can suck it. Because don't be calling West Coast Brooklyn Baby. I could be like, see, like people are like, oh, the lyrics aren't as good, but still melodically and
Mm-hmm.
sonically, structure wise, this song is just that good. The simple guitar chords that it has in it give it that old jazzy sound, and I just love it so much. West Coast, come on, don't be fooling anyone saying this song's anything lower than top 5 in literally in her discography. It should be
Yep.
top 5 in her discography, but the beat switch on this thing is just so like psychedelic, and it takes you into another world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sad Girl, I love that intro, gets me hyped every time. Pretty When You Cry, this song's so special. Like she freestyled it right on the spot. She didn't write the lyrics down. I'm just such
Wow.
a cool girl. And that guitar again just picks it up towards the end. Old Money's a sad song, but it's just so amazing as well. And then Florida Kilos, I would say. But I mean, I guess I'll stay like the reason maybe why it's not number 1 and like critique it a little bit more in our Lana Artist of the Week thing, because there
Mm-hmm.
are songs that I'm not crazy about on here, but but it doesn't matter at that point when I'm naming all these songs that are in my favorites of all time.
Mm-hmm.
The California imagery and references on this album is just a very like home thing to me. And the way that this album sounds so good at night, I only listen to this album at night with the lights off, literally at like 2 a.m. And that's how this album's meant to be listened to. I know it sounds creepy, but that's how this album's meant to be listened to, because it comes alive at that time. I keep saying
Uh,
it. Don't listen to this album during the day. Ugh.
maybe that's why my critiques came in more for that one, because I listened to it during the day.
You gotta listen to it during the
All
night,
right,
because
I'll listen to it at
this
night.
thing is nocturnal, honestly, but it's so special. I feel like the sound, and it's like almost sacred to me. Like since I can only listen to it at that time,
Mm-hmm.
it's like so sacred for me. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Ultraviolet, I can't say enough good things.
And
And
we'll be able to delve more into it when
yeah,
we do our discussion on Lana's
inspired our
discography.
podcast name too.
That's also true. Yes.
Yeah.
No, a lot. I mean, that's a part of her Holy Trinity. So there's nothing more I can say about that for now. But my number 3, "Dangerous Woman" by Ariana Grande. I feel like I'm the opposite. Like as I go up my list, I actually have less and less to say, because these albums, it's less about how they're built, how they're
Yeah.
structured and all that. It's more about just how it makes me feel. That's why they're so important to me. That's why they're
Sure.
so high up on my list. And so with Dangerous Woman, I think what I love about it so much is she just shed this entire image that she had. She was like, I'm not a part of Nickelodeon anymore. I'm not one of those kids anymore. Because with her first 2 albums, you definitely got a sense of that, right? Especially with Yours Truly, especially with My Everything, a little bit with My Everything. But with Dangerous Woman, you were like, no, she is
Yeah.
her own person now. She is going to do what she wants to do. And I love and I respected that so much about her as an artist. This isn't her. I keep switching, but right now, I don't think this is her best work. I think
Yeah.
Thank You Next is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's that's just a better album overall. But to me, this album is just this album is relaxing to me, which is a weird way to describe the way I feel towards it. But some if we want to get a little bit more structure, Into You has to be like pop perfection in my
Proper,
opinion.
come on,
You
deeper.
can't do a whole lot better than that.
Ugh,
That Side to Side collab with Nicki Minaj changed the world, and it
my
changed.
favorite. Thank you.
I don't know, the day that came out, everything changed. and I have yet to still figure out why Touch It wasn't a single, because and why she doesn't like it. Ariana Grande herself doesn't like the
She doesn't
song.
like it. She says it's boring.
Exactly. She just was like
She
boring
says
and
it's
bland.
boring.
And so whatever. It's fine. All right. Clearly she doesn't know what's best, but no, I'm messing.
It's funny how the fans and the artists' opinions don't match.
Exactly. No, so like I don't really have a whole lot to say other than it just makes me feel happy inside listening to it. You know, when I listen to Be All Right, I think I'm in a Zara because that is simply the type of music they would play. When I listen to Leave Me Lonely and that collaboration with Macy Gray, just it speaks to my soul, the way she sings it. It's beautiful, you know. Dangerous Woman itself, just also just an incredible song. The way I don't even know, like it's so good. It's just so good. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
It just makes me
Yeah.
feel very good inside.
I love Dangerous Woman. I love Ariana too. It's my favorite, even though I think Thank You Next and then Sweetener are her best. But Dangerous Woman's my personal favorite. I just really love the sound that she went for. It's just her first, like you said, breakout, really good quality wise album. Because yours
Mhm.
truly, my everything, while not bad, they are on the fence in quality, I feel like. So Dangerous
Mhm.
Woman, it's just like so many highlights, you know. I also really, I don't know if you talked about New Better Forever Boy, but that one's one of my
Oh
favorite.
yeah. That
I just
yep,
love
that one.
that one along with Into You. So just really quickly, those are my highlights. Love Dangerous Woman.
Mhm.
So moving on to our top two. Number two for me is Born This Way by Lady Gaga. She's my favorite. So this is the album that I'm choosing to represent her on here. I mean, this album, I feel like even though the Fame Monster, probably because it's 8 tracks, that one doesn't has the least amount of fillers, which is none. But this one, even though it maybe has Bad Kids, I'll say not my favorite, but every single other song on this album is just so good, and it's really so ambitious to her. I feel like the style on here. And the reason why I love this album is just because of the overarching message. You know, Gaga says when she dies, she wants to be remembered for the message of this album. And like, you know, we did get that message to the general public with, you know, Born This Way, the song, but Marry the Night, I feel like is the main song on here. It's my favorite Gaga song and one of my favorites of all time. The first track opener, just so beautiful and one of the most exciting choices I think she's made in her discography. The outro on this thing, when that beat kicks in, the bridge on here is just so good. And yeah, this album, the overarching meaning means a lot to me. I was just so much more confident and comfortable about myself coming out and all that stuff. Just this album really helps me with that. So it does mean a lot personally. And then on this album, other highlights, we got Judas, just one of her best songs. So just such a banger. That instrumental
Mhm.
is killer. The chorus, just, oh God. Gaga and Red One did their thing on that. And
Mhm.
then you got Shazza, fan favorite, great one. Bloody Mary, quintessential Gaga. That song is just so like haunting in the best way possible. And it's like,
Mhm.
again, the instrumental is very good. And then you got Electric Chapel, one that gets overlooked by fans. I love that song, the rock vibes it has to it. I want Gaga to go down that route in the future. Heavy Metal Lover, just so like hypnotizing. And like, I know the auto tune she has on it's a little bit much, but for me, I think it worked on the song. You and
Mhm.
I, self written, beautiful song, beautiful ballad. And then The Edge of Glory, of course. We know that song is a hit, but it's
Yeah.
beautiful. A
Mhm.
lot of music to it. So this album, I just love Gaga so much, and I feel like this is an integral part. I feel like this is a big fan favorite for a lot of people, but there's a reason. Once you're into fandom, you realize why it is. You just have such a close connection with her, and she's just like speaking right to you. And she's like such a motherly figure with this album. She's just like, I don't know, that's what I feel like. But
No, she is like that
yeah,
though.
she is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but that's my number two.
that's awesome. I like listening to it, but I think I just don't really connect with it too much because it wasn't like huge for me when I was growing up and stuff. So I actually listened to the majority of that album much later. As
Mhm.
like, oh, I need to listen to Gaga's albums, you know, maybe I should start by doing that. So that was, but I know it's really big and She's just incredible. That woman is incredible. My number 2 is House of Balloons. Now that's a mixtape. I will specify it is a mixtape. So I did break the rules a little bit. But it's the first mixtape in Trilogy by The Weeknd. And Wicked Games was actually the first song that really got me into the artist, into The Weeknd. And I have just fallen in love with his work ever since. His voice, for starters. That man could put me to sleep. That man could lull me to sleep. His voice is so beautiful. It's immaculate. So that's the first thing that drew me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this man sounds great. Then I started paying attention to what he's like saying, and it doesn't apply as much in this mixtape so much so, but his work overall, he seems like he talks about sad things in such a happy way. Like he'll put a really upbeat, high tempo, happy kind of vibe to a song, and he'll be like super sad in the lyrics, and you're like, wow, I feel good and sad at the same time. Which doesn't really apply so much, but I felt like that needed to be said. No, I think every song on here is beautiful. I don't think when I think of his best songs, I think of House of Balloons, House of Balloons, Glass Table Girls, Wicked Games, What You Need, High for This, 28, Loft Music. I'm literally just naming everything on here. Like it's the only like 9.8 out of 10 is like coming down for me. I don't like it that much, but I know a lot of people do. So it doesn't have a single miss. Everything sounds beautiful, and it was I mean, it was his first effort really, and it was so good. And I, listening to that, I knew this was an artist I was going to be into for a while, and I have. He's probably my second favorite artist of all time. So truly just a wonderful piece of work for it being his very first.
Yeah, I love The Weeknd. That's my favorite mixtape, not album, I guess, but project by him. And I think last time I did my list, this was top 30 of all time, so like pretty close to being in my honorable mentions. But I love that album so much, and I've been really diving into it ever since it went on the streaming platforms, and it's definitely one I most listened to this year. The production on that thing is just so great, and it's just The Weeknd at his best, and it is artistic. Exactly. I like, but that's a great choice. So now we are at our number 1 pick, our favorite albums of all time. So I'm not sure if you guys can guess what it's going to be for us. Maybe if you know us a little, you know what they are. If you don't, then maybe just make a guess if you want. But so yeah, I'll go first. My number 1 is Back to Black by Amy Winehouse. So this album is my favorite of all time. I first heard this back in 2015. I feel like it was late 2015, maybe 2016, but I think it was late 2015, and I've been listening to it ever since, just since a young age. This album just blew me away. Amy Winehouse is just such an amazing artist in general. It's so sad to see what happened to her. And this album really has songwriting that's just unbeatable on here. She really just tells a story, not only with her lyrics, but with her voice that just commands the song so well. And the production complements the style of both the vocal performances and the voice so well. And there's not much to say about this album that hasn't been said already. It's one of the best of all time, and we know that. I mean, when we're looking on the track list, I would say my highlights would be Rehab. Everyone knows that song, but it deserved to win Record of the Year like it did, just a jam. I would also say, I'm No Good. People know that one, a great song. Back to Black, of course. Love is a Losing Game, very sad one, but just beautifully written and beautifully sung. Tears By On Their Own, a very uplifting and positive song after that. And then Wake Up Alone. That three-peat right there is probably just my favorite in all of music. I feel like those 3 songs. Wake Up Alone's my favorite song on here. Just the atmosphere that the production creates is just like so ethereal and just like beautiful to me. And I don't know. It's just, I don't know how that song makes me feel. It's just beautiful. We got also an underrated one. I feel like He Can Only Hold Her. Just a very uplifting and positive song, positive production wise, I should say, on here. Everything about this album is just perfect in my opinion, and it's really hard to top. I can't say there's a least favorite song on here. Addicted's the only song, like you said, 9.8 out of 10. It's still 9.8 out of 10, which is better than every song on most other albums I listen to. So
Yeah.
every single other song on here is just literally 10 out of 10. And I love this whole entire album as a body of work. I'm kind of mad that my vinyl doesn't have Addicted, though. It has a different remix to me and Mr. Jones, I think, or no, it has a remix to You Know I'm No Good with some rapper, which is kind of weird. I'm like, why is it like this? I don't know why my vinyl's like that. It kind of just messes up the flow of the album. But anyways, this album coming into 11 tracks, just amazing. Amy Winehouse, one of my favorites, just a beautiful soul, and this album will live on, and it is a classic for years to come.
No, I completely agree. May she rest in peace. It was very, we lost a beautiful soul a little too soon. So she's also one of those like generational talents where like you're not going to get very many of her in a generation. So a wonderful album overall. I completely agree. My number one, which anyone who knows me will know, like I'm so predictable in that sense. It's Take Care by Drake. Came out in 2011. So I was in 7th grade when it came out.
Your anniversary already.
I know. Crazy. I'm gonna cry a little bit. I'm so sad. I'm so old.
Same with Born This Way. That's a great year.
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. No, so I don't talk a whole lot about Drake on my other social media platforms because my opinions on him are something I like to keep protected because his music is something that I've always loved. I've heard Find Your Love, which was on work before, when I was a little bit younger, but when Take Care came out, Headlines came out, The Motto came out, I remember in class listening to the songs, learning the lyrics. And he became such a huge part of my personality almost, listening to his music. I really struggled to like make friends and stuff. So doing this, listening to this music, it almost helped me fit in, which is kind of weird, Drake doing that for me. But like he's the reason why that I became a little more confident myself, a little more confident in making friends, being more social, things like that. And so this is my number one comfort album. It has a little bit of everything. I could go on about the track list, but I think everyone really knows a lot about it. So this is Headlines is not my favorite. My favorite Drake song does not come off here, but the Headlines is top 10. So I don't know. It's very important to me, and so I like to protect my opinions because people, they have their things to say about Drake, and it hurts because of how important. Like it seems like he wouldn't be that artist, but he was for me. Him and Eminem, surprisingly enough. So yeah. So I don't really have anything technical to say about the album. I think it's his best. A lot of people think, otherwise, but I think it's his best, but it's just very important to me.
It's his best. It's a classic, modern classic.
It's a modern classic.
Case closed. End of story.
Case closed. Listen, it is the epitome of Drake. If you ask me describe Drake, I will hand you this album and I said this is Drake. Enjoy. So
love it.
Yeah.
So that is the end of our top 10 album rankings. Let us know what you guys thought about this. And we enjoyed doing this for you guys. Next Saturday, we will be having our second Artist of the Week discography episode, and that is going to be on the one and only Kanye West. So you guys are definitely going to want to be checking that out. We're both pretty big Kanye fans, and as you saw, with this. So we're definitely looking forward to that one. And thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys go follow our social medias. Go to our Instagram page and our TikTok. They will be linked down below. And thank you for listening so much.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Bye, guys.